I was reading a magazine and a car, my face took us on the left and moved into the dashboard where a radio was. The person driving the car, so the seatbelt pulled on my stomach and I had I smashed most of the bones on the right side of my face. I lost the right eye. And the car started going into violent. And eventually I got taken through to... I was in the Johannesburg Hospital for about a month. So I lay on the side of the road reading machines for about an hour while paramedics were resuscitating me. I just remember waking up and looking at a white ceiling. I didn't realize that I'd been in an accident. I just heard people around me talking. One of the doctors speaking to my mum, telling her about my chances of survival that night and what surgery I had to go through next. I was in a lot of pain. Eventually, after that month of being there, I was discharged. And I didn't know where to begin. I knew there was a lot of damage to my face, but I was never really sure where I had to start. I had to spend a lot of time researching on exactly what kind of surgeons I needed. It was a microsurgeon and a cosmetic surgeon and a reconstructive surgeon and then a craniofacial surgeon, and then it overlapped into a craniofacial maxillofacial surgeon. It was just extremely confusing. And, I was finding myself running between the specialists with written notes with terms I'd never heard of and complications that could happen if the other surgeon did the surgery in areas that they were working. To get them to talk to each other was extremely difficult. So 7 years down the line of failing surgeries, I ended up with a bad infection. So I remember I went to the shop one day. I walked out of the shop and suddenly there was a whole lot of fluid coming out of my face. I didn't know what it was. So I got hold of one of my doctors. Within a couple of days we had to do a debridement of the prosthetic that was in my face. And it was ongoing. We would do the debridement and 2 months later I would get the infection back again, but worse. A year down the line, it was so bad that every day I was looking in the mirror to clean my face from this infection. I could almost see the prosthetics coming through the skin, and by then I'd really lost huge portions of my face. So my plastic surgeon said to me, look, I don't care if you sue me, I'm taking this prosthetic out because the infection is on there and it won't go away until we take it out. And so he did. He had it tested and it was riddled with MRSA, with antibiotic resistance. I didn't know what MRSA was. Eventually I read on the internet that taking these antibiotics were actually feeding the bacteria. And I just started searching the internet for as many of the best doctors I could find. Eventually, somebody replied, and it was a face transplant surgeon. So he explained to me what needed to be done. And at the end of that call, he said to me, now take this information and go find a doctor that mimics it, which I did. And eventually I found one who was classed as one of the best in the world. So I went to him and we did the surgeries, and within 2 surgeries in 8 months, my face was perfect. And for all those 10 years, I used to have to cover my face with eye pads, glasses, you name it. I couldn't show people my face. I couldn't walk out into public because I'd just get stares. And that day was the best day of my life, that I could walk out and I felt like a human being again.
That is Vanessa Carter. Vanessa Carter is on our advisory board. Our advisory board at the Infection Prevention Strategy spans 4 continents, has gender diversity, and it represents people like Vanessa Carter. But 2 years ago this November, we started our program, and as some of you may not know, that we're not-for-profit. We're a global collective in 38 countries, 8 countries significantly. And it was 2 years ago that I chose to wake up to make a difference. So with the fundamental belief that there are some issues in the world that need addressing, and more specifically, Vanessa Carter, who was one of our first advisory board members and still there, we launched on Antibiotic Resistance Week, November 15th, 2015. And what is so important, and to unpack what Vanessa Carter is talking about there, is to realize by 2050, we stand that we may die, more people may die from antibiotic resistance than cancer. That's one person every 3 seconds. This is a growing, immediate threat to the world. And a great speaker last week just brought up the fact, if you want to see what it's like, Dr. Murray Cohen mentioned last week, if you want to see what it's like when the antibiotics stop working, just go check the newsreels prior to World War II and back into World War I. I mean, this is an immediate threat that we're all facing. Also, last week, before I gave my talk at the CAM conference, the night before at midnight, I'm looking at my phone, and I was blown away that there was that the CNN released an article, and the article was talking about how 11 fast food restaurants completely failed in their antibiotic stewardship. I mean, that's 11 out of 25 fast food restaurants that actually chose to put yield over humanity. And what ends up happening is cases like this. And we're talking about over a plane loaded day of people that are dying. I'm not making this up, that go unnoticed due to infections. And by 2050, and that's what I started mentioning a few seconds ago, we are headed to a major crisis according to the Antimicrobial Review Committee. Now, let's understand that 2050 is only 32 years away, right? So I take this seriously. So myself 2 years ago woke up and decided, well, the next thing I do in my life, the thing I want to do when I'm 75, I'm looking back, I want to do something right, I want to make a difference. And a group of us came together all with the same thought. So we're all volunteers, none of us get paid, and we're all focused on driving this ball forward. So our organization is the Infection Prevention Strategy, TIPS, and we do a lot. But the infection prevention strategy is focused on a few fundamental goals. One, we're out there to change social determinants of health. We were out there to make sure that education's put in play to people, provided to they get the right choices, from simple vaccination programs right down to significant programs in education in other ways. We also firmly exist, and a lot of people know us for this part, we exist because we fundamentally believe that you should not wait years, months, years, or pay tons of money for promising, keyword, promising innovations and ideas and protocols to be accepted and vetted. And the way that the world works right now with the great peer review platforms and the way science is vetted and introduced to organizations, cities, hospitals, and things like that, it's done all backwards and wrong. It's done through relationships. It's done through, there's hardly any emphasis on true evidence and science. So our platform we created is the first most notable platform we created is the infectioncontrol.tips, which is an online peer-reviewed journal. It's actually an open access journal, but we've taken it one step further. The open access journal that we've created is now known worldwide as a pan-access journal because we're free to publish, we're free to access, but we take things one step further. We also provide accessible scientific services. No one in the world does this. So we will go out there and do full-blown IRB-approved studies, evaluations, sterility, anything, and we'll then write it up, peer review it, and publish it, of course, on our journal. And then we go and advocate for the things that we believe in. Let's put this in context. Our 2-year anniversary comes up this November 15th. In that 2 years, we've literally waived $500,000 in publishing fees. Right? We've succeeded 270 publications already. And by Christmas time, we're happy to announce that we have also done $500,000 in free and accessible scientific services. And that's scientific services that's been done through our own channels, through university networks, through our partners, and Dr. Sitar, who sits on our board, and NSF, global labs around the world. So we've actually put out, by Christmas time, we're evaluating $500,000. That's $1 million in impact that we've done because a group of us chose to wake up 2 years ago and make a difference. So next year we have greater goals and bigger things. So one of the ways that we work is through our program. We have another platform that we call the Sudden Science. And Sudden Science is basically about speeding up the adoption and providing scientific evidence. We're all about providing evidence. We don't advocate things that are not proven, and we help prove those things. So if you're looking at a new chemistry, if you're considering a new disinfectant, in this audience, we're looking at hand hygiene, for example, they're not all real. They're not all legit, right? Some of them are damaging. Some of them are damaging in different contexts. You're not going to use a quat in a daycare. I mean, everything has its place. So we actually provide scientific evidence to advance those things forward. And a lot of the stuff we've done in our Sudden Science program includes the Wello Station, the Handy Scan. They're both here today. Raquel is here. One of the most notable things that we've done, the one I really get a lot of enjoyment out of, is a year ago, I'm pointing to the screen, a year ago, we grabbed this product from a company. No one paid us to do this. We did a full-blown sterility study, efficacy, and evaluation of their little 5-cent piece of plastic. This little 5-cent piece of plastic covers the whole stethoscope. So we proved that there was no cross-contamination using this little 5-cent piece of plastic. Then we actually went further to prove that there was no loss of audio using this little device. I mean, this should be implemented everywhere. And then Jason Tetro, who's on our board, did the peer review, and we published it. And I've presented this in England, throughout the United States, and several places in Canada. And the state of New Jersey is looking at mandating this as law. That's impactful, right? By implementing such a simple technology, you were able to stop the transmission of infection. And there's many things like that we've done and that we're still working on. We were the first in the world to publish, peer review and publish on built-in UV. It's a thing. It makes a difference. It stops the shedding, and in between cleaning, it's a powerful way to control the spread of contaminants. We beat the American Journal of Infection Control by 6 months. So a small little platform of ours has a lot of impact by doing things because we're not the behemoth out there, and our ability to operate helps communicate messages more efficiently and quicker. So, like I said, we have multiple platforms. The Infection Prevention Strategy is the not-for-profit organization that spans 38 countries. We have strong representation in Canada, United States, United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia. We are the go-to market leaders for that. We also have a very strong presence in South Africa. You just met Vanessa Carter. And in Kenya, Nigeria, and in all these places, we actually have engagement coordinators that work for us on the field. And we're setting up trial studies and a lot of social determinant projects of health. One of the newest things that we're really proud of is we've hooked up with a charity that's been existing for 8 years, and we're going to take them to the next stage, and that's in Tanzania. So we have a presence in Tanzania, and we've been doing a lot, but now we have an orphanage that we're working with in Tanzania called Tumami, and our goal is to work with them to take them from 52 kids to 300 kids. And we're talking about kids that literally abandoned, kids that have from AIDS to other issues. But more importantly, there's no education. And the reason why we're very proud of the Tanzanian project that we're working on is because Tanzania is the only country in the world, the poorest country in the world, let me rephrase that, the poorest country in the world that is not at war. Right? So this platform that we're doing, we're going from 52 kids, where our goal is to take them to 300 and make the charity self-sustainable. We then are going to take that program that we're developing with the charity in Tanzania, and then our group, TIPS, will be working directly with the government to implement it in the school system. Because we take a lot for granted where we live. Right? We really do. I mean, in Tanzania, if the chimney's not smoking, that means there's no food in the school. And if the teachers see no smoke coming out of the chimney, because they use corn in a lot of their food, so the chimney's always smoking if there's food, the teachers don't go to school. And if the kids know that there's nothing coming out of the chimneys for smoke, the teachers don't go to school. The kids know there's no point going to school. So no one goes to school. And this is a thing that they experience. And so these are one of the things that we can help implement changes on and focuses. And we just started this project this year, and we're looking forward to it. Other platforms and other things that we do that are more relevant to the conversations you're here for today. We're putting up, with our partner NSF and other groups, platforms that are fact. Like, there's no ads or influence, there's no bias. We're talking about biofilm, We're talking about antimicrobial. There's a lot of misleading information out there, people not understanding what they're talking. The claims are insane, but we're going to be putting up for UV, biofilm, antimicrobials, we're going to be putting up some significant knowledge-based sites that are just addressing the situation. We'll have literature views up there, and we'll be compiling the information so it's all palatable for you guys to understand and appreciate, and how to judge a vendor and find out if their claims are legitimate. And then we do run the Center of Excellence for Infection Prevention Control in Buffalo, New York, and we have operations going to be starting up in Texas and Montreal and other places around the world. We're very excited about that. And then one of the most, the HITSconsortium.org is a huge endeavor where we're talking about air, water, and surfaces, and we're talking about engagement. We just held an amazing conference in Ann Arbor a couple of weeks ago, and we'll be moving forward with this huge global platform soon in the future. People ask us all the time how we fund it. We are a pay-it-forward model. I have a sign-up sheet at my booth. Please consider donating. That money helps to provide for our scientific services. But participating with us doesn't cost a cent. We always like to stay independent, and we always are looking for volunteers. So thank you.